Like all stories, there must be an ending. Sometimes the end of a day is like closing another chapter of life. Sometimes hearing steam whistles one more time at night before you sleep is one way to end a story. That will happen in this final episode of the Southern Railway saga as part of Season 2 of the Revival Steam podcast. I am Alec Butler, the narrator, sound editor, and host for this fictional railway podcast. Its goal is to inspire listeners like you to imagine what a world of 21st century American trains, pulled by new and improved steam locomotives, will look and sound like. This is our last episode before we begin our next saga. We initially thought the previous episode, mostly with Southern 2H82s, would be the last, but we imagine several more Southern steamers have been added to the Tribute and Next-in-Class fleet, and we will capture them for the beginning of summer break in the third week of June. We will capture 2 passenger trains and 2 freight trains in Indiana and Illinois. We will then chase a Tribute 482 between Chattanooga and Memphis, Tennessee. Then another 482, a Next-in-Class, will catch our attention as we chase it through Alabama from Birmingham to Chattanooga, Tennessee. We then hear some action in Chattanooga, Knoxville, Tennessee, and Asheville, North Carolina. And finally, we will make one more stop in Bristol, Virginia to hear one more Southern steamer and one of the first steam locomotives of our next railroad in the next saga. This will be a grand Southern road trip finale that you will enjoy, so relax in your chair, grab a bag of popcorn, and close your eyes. Let's imagine hearing the finest Southern steam sounds we will present in this episode as the Southern veterans blow their whistles for the last time in this saga. Listen and enjoy. We begin this journey on the third Monday of summer break on June 16th. After finishing work, we travel southward from Michigan to Indiana. We will travel to the small city of Huntingburg, Indiana. It is located along Norfolk Southern's Southern East District line between Louisville, Kentucky and Princeton, Indiana. At Princeton, the line meets with its western counterpart, the Southern West District line, which continues to St. Louis, Missouri. In our imaginary future, we will catch 4 trains on these lines. They include the 2 daily passenger trains between Louisville and St. Louis, alongside the local NS freight trains serving the industries along the line. The first train we will hear is one of these local freights. We are just in time at 6 p.m. as local freight D14 departs on time. This train only runs on Sunday through Thursday. The engine in charge of the train is Next-in-Class MS-282 number 4639. Listen to the engine sound off the traditional Southern 3-chime whistle as she starts this final Southern safari with D14 heading for Boonville, Indiana. Listen and enjoy. We will have dinner at a local diner early in the evening after we settle in at our hotel for the night. After dinner, we will travel to a nearby crossing to catch the first of 3 run-pass of our second train for this evening. The eastbound daily passenger train heading to Louisville departs Huntingburg after a passenger and service stop. Leading the train is Tribute PS4 Pacific number 6482. Its signature low southern whistle gives us a chorus as it leaves the station. Driving 41 miles east, we set up at a siding in Milltown, Indiana. After an NS freight train goes by, 6482 heads onto the main line to finish the last leg of its journey to Louisville. Then we quickly drive 7.2 miles east to the small community of Ramsey, Indiana, for our last run past of this chase. 6482 puts on a show as it passes us in the gathering darkness as it continues to Louisville. The next day is Tuesday, June 17th. We will wake up and have breakfast at our Huntingburg Hotel. After that, we will be ready for the big chase today. We are chasing the westbound RS-related passenger train from Huntingburg to St. Louis, though we will go as far as Mount Vernon, Illinois. Leading the train today is another Tribute PS4 Pacific number 6691. We first hear the train as it chugs its way out of Huntingburg this morning. It's around 10 a.m. Chasing the train westward, the next run pass in this first sequence of 3 will be at Oakland City as the train rumbles by at speed. Then we will pace 6691 and its train along Route 64 east of Princeton. This will be an exciting day for us chasing a PS4 Pacific. By this point, it is around 11:15 a.m. Princeton is 12 miles from the train's next stop, Mount Carmel, Illinois, next to the state line along the Wabash River. We will hear the train west of the city as it bangs over a switch. Then we travel 72 miles west on Interstate 64 to a spot near Mount Vernon, Illinois. It will be 12:30 p.m. by then. The train makes a good whistle display, but it is cut short as we stop capturing the moment and race to the train's next stop, Dix, Illinois, 9 miles to the north. There, the train meets its eastbound counterpart to Louisville, but unfortunately we will not hear this meeting between the trains due to time constraints. 8 miles northwest of Dix is the small community of Walnut Hill. The train makes another memorable run past as it thunders past us towards its next stop in Centralia, Illinois. But this is where we will end the chase after over half a day chasing this passenger train with 6691. This is a Southern Railway PS4 chase we will never forget. At 4 p.m., we will capture the last train on this line today. We are back in Mount Carmel to hear NS local freight D76 depart town heading back west. This train originated in Centralia, Illinois, and only runs to Mount Vernon on Tuesday and Thursday, with a trip to East St. Louis on the other days. The tribute locomotive pulling this train this afternoon is Tribute KS number 8340, which represents the group of 280s originally built for the Georgia Southern and Florida Railway in 1910, until that railroad was merged into the Southern. This is a nice soundtrack to listen to as the 280 gets the local freight train moving along and off into the sunset. And this is where we will travel back to Huntingburg for the night. Not a bad day for steam. After spending Wednesday, June 18th, taking a break from the activity the previous day, we will spend 5 hours and 339 miles Thursday, June 19th, traveling to our next stop on our tour. Pocahontas, Tennessee is close to the state line with Mississippi. Then, after enjoying Friday morning, June 20th, sleeping in at our motel outside of town, it will be 1 p.m. when we will get the action we came for. We are chasing the last quarter of the journey for the RS Daily Passenger Train from Chattanooga to Memphis, which departed at around 8 a.m. The train is being handled by our old friend from the Veterans Day episode, Tribute TS 482 number 6695. As it heads west, we hear the train passing 4 locations in this segment. The first one will be at Pocahontas. The second one will be at Middleton, Tennessee. The third will be at a location west of LaGrange, Tennessee. And the last in the segment will be at Rossville, Tennessee. 6695 is stretching her legs on this trip as she rumbles through these towns like a steam engine should. We leave it up to you to guess which of these run paths is the best. Enjoy. Now for the last sound segment of the day, we will spend over 2 minutes pacing 6695 and its passenger train along Poplar Pike in Germantown, Tennessee, 22 miles from downtown Memphis. It is exciting and fast. By then, it will be around 2:45 p.m. But for us, our day is over, and we will spend the night in Memphis after another great chase of Southern steam. We will spend most of Saturday, June 21st, sleeping in Memphis before getting up and having brunch. Then we will travel much of the day 255 miles southeast to Trussville, Alabama, along the NSX Alabama Great Southern Main Line between Birmingham and Chattanooga. We are chasing the RS Daily Passenger Train north to Chattanooga on Sunday, June 22nd. Little traffic is noticeable today, which gives this train all the space it needs to show off the power of its road engine. This is next-in-class TS-482 number 1474. Our first action will occur 20 minutes after breakfast at our hotel in Trussville at 9:20 a.m. We will spend nearly 8 minutes pacing 1474 and its passenger train slowly along Route 11 through Trussville as we head north. The train is moving slowly past some maintenance workers who are repairing a signal. This will be the last pacing action in this episode. We then speed up ahead of the train and set up at a crossing in Springsville, Alabama. The train is still moving past the slow order zone, but the whistle makes the train's presence known in the small community. Then, northeast of town, the train finally gets up to track speed as it thunders by us at another crossing along Route 11. This segment shows the calm before the storm. "30 miles later, we hear the train departing its water stop in Attala, Alabama. It is now going around 10:20 a.m. For the last segment, we will catch 1474 and its train, which will arrive and depart from another service passenger stop at Valley Head, Alabama, close to the state line with Georgia. It will arrive at Chattanooga around 12:30 p.m., just before our lunch break. This will be our last chase of a Southern passenger train for this podcast, but hopefully there will be more in the future. we will eat our picked up lunch at a location outside of Cleveland, Tennessee. After waiting for 2 long hours, at 3 p.m., we finally see what we are waiting for. This is the return trip of NS Local Freight T38. This is a daily turn freight that runs from Chattanooga to Charleston, Tennessee. Leading the train is a next-in-class locomotive, which represents the MS-282. This is number 4636, and it makes a rousing run past as it charges out of Cleveland, heading back to Chattanooga. After this train, we are about to head to Knoxville when one of our other members' cars gets a flat tire. So for the next 4 hours, we will search for a store that will have the best tires. Now it is around 8:15 p.m. after placing the new tire on the car. But we will get word of an extra train that is running tonight. So after some discussion, we decide to capture the train before heading to Knoxville. 45 minutes after this decision making, we find ourselves at an overpass at Ooltewah, Tennessee to hear the train. It is an extra night section of NS Manifest Freight 350 heading to Knoxville from Chattanooga. The train is under the responsibility of Tribute MS4 Mike number 4844. At 9 p.m., we will hear the train as it comes charging underneath the overpass and thunder off into the night. The train is not that long, only 1/3 of its usual size, but it still makes a great show tonight. The chugging is so loud that you will hear a car alarm go off from one of the other members' cars. That tells you how loud a steam engine can be when it's running hard, so you might want to cover your ears for this one. We arrive at Knoxville at around 11:30 p.m. We will go to bed at our hotel as we will get an early Monday, June 23rd morning start at 6 a.m. Traveling a short distance to where the Holston and French Broad rivers meet to form the Tennessee River, we hear an extra early morning Knoxville and Holston River Railroad freight train number 103. This train runs as needed, and for this RS outing, it runs earlier than usual. It is usually a transfer to and from Asbury. Leading the train from our location a distance away from the tracks is Tribute 280 number 400. This engine represents the 25 H4 locomotives Baldwin built in 1907 and used on mixed trains, branch lines, and yard switching duties. Two survived the torch. They are 385 on display in Whippany, New Jersey, and number 401 operating at the Monticello Railway Museum in Monticello, Illinois. The original number 400 was the last to be scrapped in August 1954 after a wreck in Gaffney, South Carolina. But now with all that out of the way, let's get back to the soundtrack. We hear Tribute number 400 pulling K&HR train number 103 in the distance as it is about to cross a bridge over the Holston River. It is near the end of the 19-mile-long line at Asbury. The whistle of number 400 is beautiful on this early summer morning as the sun will appear in an hour. Don't think this is Halloween. Enjoy this beautiful chorus. After that, we will spend most of the day getting more sleep and hanging out around the sites in Knoxville. Then around 4 p.m., we drive down south to the summit of the grade on the Alcoa branch. Working its way to the summit is NST 21, the only train that works this line. Handling the train today is another next-in-class MS Mike, number 4637. The engine chugs heavily past us, shuts off steam, and will whistle for a distant crossing as it heads back north to Knoxville. An hour will pass at this point. At 5 p.m., we are in the woods along the tracks near Knoxville, where we will hear a lovely whistle in the distance. It is the last K&HR freight train of the day, approaching and passing us. In charge of the train is a different-looking Southern Railway locomotive. It is Tribute 460 number 6891. This engine represents the last of 3 ES-23 10-wheelers built by Baldwin in 1912 for the New Orleans and Northeastern. All were retired by 1948. The whistle on the engine is quirky yet cheerful as the train makes its way through the woods a few hours before dusk. At 9 p.m. that evening, we set up midway along the line. We hear the last train of the day and the last one in Knoxville chugging along the Tennessee River toward Asbury. This is a special mixed train carrying a wedding party and supplies to their party site near the Holston River. Leading the train is a Knoxville resident. It is 280 number 154, the oldest Southern Railway steam locomotive survivor. At the time of this episode, it is undergoing a 1472-day inspection after being run for the last time in 2024. We hope the engine will participate in some RS events in Knoxville and on short lines elsewhere by the time it is done. But now, listen to this engine in the future doing what she was built to do over a century ago. We will spend the night in Knoxville and get up at around 8 a.m. It is Tuesday, June 24th, and we will get into our cars for a 2-hour, 111-mile eastward trip to Asheville, North Carolina. When we arrive around 11 a.m., we will stretch our legs on nearby trails until 3 p.m. Then we will return to our hotel to take a nap before having a late dinner. We will catch 4 trains in one night, starting at 9 p.m. The first train we will capture at 9:45 p.m. is at a spot about 5 miles away from the city. It is the returning NS Local Freight P89, which is returning to Asheville from Grovestone. Handling the train tonight is Tribute KS3 280 number 2500, representing the first of the class built at Alco Richmond Works in 1926. The engine has a 3-chime whistle as she glides down the grade on its final approach to Asheville. This is a beautiful scene, listening to the steam train at night. Once 2500 passes heading into Asheville, we get word of another train coming back to the city. It will be 20 minutes of driving up to Andrews Geyser to capture the train just in time. It is NSPA 87, which is being pulled by another next-in-class MS-282, number 4638. We hear the engine hammering its way up the grade to the summit of the Asheville Loops in a spectacular show of night mountain railroading. After this train, we travel through the darkness to Bryson City, North Carolina, 65 miles southeast of Asheville. We are back on the Great Smoky Mountains Railroad tracks, which owns the ex-Southern Murphy branch. We set up several hundred feet from the tracks in a field east of Bryson City to catch the late-night freight train coming back from Andrews to Sylva, North Carolina, where we'll interchange cars with the Blue Ridge Southern. Leading the train tonight is another tribute to a Southern 280. This will be Tribute KS 280 number 881. The train starts to pick up speed after passing through Bryson City but will slip a bit as it continues its last several miles to Dillsborough and Silva. It will be 11 p.m. The next sound segment will be captured nearly 45 minutes after midnight. By some coincidence, we are simultaneously capturing the sound of two steamers. The higher 3-chime whistle is coming from the yard, and it is from Tribute AS11 080 number 1844, representing those built during the period of the First World War. The train we intend to catch is coming off the Murphy branch and heading back to the Asheville yard to finish work for tonight. It is a gravel work train with Tribute KS 280 number 748. The engine has a deep-throated whistle. Tonight, we will have quite a moment to capture two whistles simultaneously. It's truly like a trip back in time. Now we will travel for a half an hour to Hendersonville, North Carolina for our last soundtrack of the night. This will be our final Southern steam-powered freight train for this saga. This is an extra Blue Ridge Southern local freight from Asheville to Hendersonville. At around 2 a.m. in the morning, we will position about 5 miles north of Hendersonville near Mountain Home. Leading the train through the night with whistle blowing beautifully is a tribute to MS-1 Mikado number 6296. We hear the train sounding its voice through the mountains in the first half of this segment. Then we hear heavy chugging as the train comes marching past us and continues its last few miles to Hendersonville. This is the most spectacular moment for us tonight. And as I said earlier, this is our final Southern Steam freight for the saga. Enjoy it while it lasts. After spending much of Wednesday morning, June 25th, sleeping in Asheville, we will travel to our last stop for this steam train safari. We are in Bristol, Virginia, having lunch near the station. Just after we finish eating, we hear some whistling from the yard. As it turns out, two steamers from two different railroads are meeting. Tribute TS1 number 1480 is heading out with an RS-related passenger train from Bristol to Knoxville, Tennessee. But another steamer is in the yard. This is a fitting end to the Southern Saga and a preview of the next saga. As I said in episode 1 of this season, this second season will involve the Southern Railway and the Norfolk and Western Railroad, which originated separately but merged in 1982. In this case, an original N&W engine is in the yard for switching duties. Y3 number 2050, an ALKO product of 1923. Currently, this engine is on display at the Illinois Railroad Museum in Union, Illinois. But it is here where it will be restored and operated for RS activities in the future. 1480 and 2050 are whistling to each other in a whistle battle as 1480 gets underway and storms off into the distance. Here we will say goodbye to the Southern Railway after 11 glorious episodes with the first railroad to re-embrace steam for the RS movement. The Southern Railway was known for its passenger trains, the sad early ending of steam revenue service trains, and its steam revival on excursion trains that was carried on until 1994 with Norfolk Southern. It was a railroad that served the South, and I hope that Southern steam locomotives will carry the flag, continuing the service in the future. To end it all, I credit WINN, Mary McPherson of Diverging Clear Productions, and ARKAY Records for allowing me to use the sounds you heard to make this episode possible. I would also like to credit my Aunt Elizabeth Tremblay for her hard work editing my scripts. I look forward to our next adventure, the first on the famous Norfolk and Western. So with that, nothing else needs to be said. This is Alec Butler of Revival Steam. We will see you next time.